Hello everyone, this is Amateur. Welcome to my channel where I just talk about life, politics, religions, pop culture, what have you. And on today's episode, if you couldn't tell by the thumbnail, we're going to be talking religion, especially as it pertains to truth. And just kind of before we begin, I think it's important to note that when it comes to religion, as you may have heard in some of my previous videos, that everyone has a religion. And all religions are about the pursuit of truth. And what is true is that it's in accordance with a fact or reality. And so you might hear things like perception is reality, which is true, but it's also not true. Like perception is perception. And it might be true that you are perceiving something, like that may be a reality that you're perceiving something, but that perception may or may not be an illusion. And so reality as well is something that's kind of outside of human interaction or human knowledge. Like it didn't need humans in order for it to be true, but humans by nature gave it a name. And so one thing that I like to explain this is with mathematics, and I'll just probably go ahead and put in a clip from a TikTok video that I made. It was about leaving the church, but I think the principles still matter. So I'll go ahead and play that and then we'll come back. And so the first question that I ask is, do you believe that 2 + 2 = 4? And hopefully you say yes, because it does, but I'll explain. So here I present to you quick maths. So in our numeric language, we've decided to name this quantity 1, this quantity 2, this quantity 3, this quantity 4, so on and so forth, right? We could have said this was a fleep, floop, flop, flup. Either way, the quantities stay the same. You know, we see this in different languages, like in English we say 99, in French they say 99, which literally translates to 4 times 20 plus 10 plus 9, like why French? But either way, we can see clearly here that this quantity put together with this quantity gives you this quantity. Of course, to understand that, it's to understand what we've commonly defined what these quantities are. We just happen to work on a system of base 10, but even when converting to a new base, the number still means the same way. It's just different in how it's written. Again, same way that this is 1, but this is also 1, and this is also 1. Just 3 different ways of saying the same thing. So hopefully from that video, you were able to see that, you know, 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4 because man just wanted to make up an arbitrary interaction, but 2 + 2 = 4 because that was what was observed. And we just happen to put a name to that in order to make sense of everything, in order for us to be able to manipulate those numbers, to extrapolate and go out further into what we know is the field of mathematics. So that's kind of one of the first parts that I wanted to start off with. And then the second part is just to kind of note that from the Christian perspective and from other perspectives as well, our understanding is that we are spirits having a human experience. So what that means is that we are like spirits that are animating this body. And you'll kind of see this in neurology, which is one of my favorite subjects studying in high school. Well, it wasn't neurology, it was anatomy and the brain. Besides the point. But what we know is that when, as far as in the study of consciousness and what that is, and if you're going to talk about the neurological aspect, how throughout our system, everything that we need to do and move is animated through our neurons, electrical energy. But we know that the law of the conservation of inertia, or Newton's first law, or something like that, that an object at rest will stay at rest unless acted upon by an outside force, or an object in motion will stay in motion unless acted upon by an outside force. And so we know that our neurons won't fire unless something initiates that, but it's not necessarily the brain itself initiating itself in order to function. And so it would have to be, like, logically would be that a spirit is the first push to even start that animation of our brains and our bodies, and the reason why I'm talking the way I'm talking, thinking the way I'm thinking, etc. So just some food for thought. But to start, this video is in response to a video that I happened across from a YouTube channel called The Atheist Experience, and it was trying to answer the question, or a caller had asked the question, why does the truth matter to the atheist perspective? And he actually did not answer the question, though he might think he did. And so that's what we're going to do within this video. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started.
Oh, in Michigan. Thanks for waiting. You are on with Matt and Mandy. So you have questions about truth and moral absolutes? Yes. Yeah, I've called before and talked to you before, and so I was just curious from your perspective why truth matters. From an atheist perspective, why truth matters. And
I answered literally this question 2 weeks. I answered literally this question 2 weeks ago when I was on. Truth matters because if you're going to cross the street, it matters whether or not a bus is coming at you. The truth matters.
All right, so pause. So when he says this, we're all in 100% agreement. So the caller is just asking, from your perspective, from the atheist perspective, why does the truth matter? Because from our perspective as Christians, the truth matters because Jesus is the truth. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. So that is how we have to orient our perspective as we view the world, as far as with what sin is, what morality is, what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong. So from that, that's kind of where we're going. But we're not disagreeing, especially as it pertains to his example that he gave, Mr. Dillahunty. And so what he's saying is, like, it matters if a bus is actually coming to you or not, because whatever the truth represents, it's going to impact how you act or respond based off either the outcome that you are expecting about it, right? So from his example, he's saying that a true belief or a true perception of whether a bus is coming or not is going to influence how you act based off the outcome that you're expecting. So if a bus is coming and you think it's coming and you don't want to get hit by a bus, you're going to stay where you are and wait until the bus passes. But if a bus is coming and you don't think that it's coming, but it really is, and you move forward because you're trying to just cross the street and you get hit by a bus, that's a false belief and you're going to get hit, and that's not a good thing. You don't want to be injured if that's not the expectation. But if a bus is coming and you see that it's coming and you do want to get hit and then you move, like, that's the expectation that you're expecting, right? And so on the flip side, a false belief, if a bus isn't coming and you think it is, then you're going to stay put and you're not ever going to cross the street when that is something that you're actually wanting to do, right? So for here we see that there is, I guess, a dichotomous relation of truth and lies, and that in order for something to be true, that the lie also has an impact. But I think that might be a relationship that we see throughout our world and throughout the reality that we do live in, is that the truth matters because if it is a lie, there is also a negative impact. So from the Christian perspective, along those same lines, it does matter, and like you heard in the beginning, that we are souls, that we are spirits, and our spirit is going to continue to live past the physical death of our body. And so it matters if we have the right belief and the right acceptance of who God is and what Christ has done for us, because that's going to determine whether we do end up with God or without God. And so that matters. There is an impact for false belief, and we'll kind of see later down the line how that kind of plays out with the caller. But continuing.
No, well, I'm talking about in the long run. If we're only so much compost, why does the truth matter?
No. You don't get to go because life eventually ends, it was worthless. You don't get to pull that bullshit.
Okay, so I'm pausing again. I know we didn't really get to go much further, but as I was saying, as far as with the pursuit of truth, that all religions are about the end game. So it's not to say that everything leading up to it doesn't matter or was not important, but you have to be able to draw the beliefs and the principles to its logical conclusion in order for that, that reality to actually make sense. So the caller isn't saying that because everything else was pointless, and then when you die, nothing matters. Though that would seem that's what the atheist perspective is, but he's saying that all religions is about the end game. And what I've noted, and this is something that I've really noticed since I was younger, being brought up in the Christian faith and just kind of speculating why others believe what they believe, but all religions say something about the end game or what's going to happen in the end, and it's either nothing some sort of reincarnation or like a recycling of energy, or some sort of afterlife. So those are the only three options that truly, I guess, exist as far as to kind of fall away from a dilemma. So you have either nothing, or when you die, nothing happens. Like, you can't say for sure whether something is or isn't true. Reincarnation, and you're kind of reborn into this new life, which there are some faults with that sort of speculation, but that's not this video. And three is there's some sort of afterlife. And a lot of different religions believe that there is some sort of afterlife, whether it's being in Hades or freaking nirvana, like, I don't know. But the Christian perspective of the afterlife is that you will be with God or without God, and those are the only options. And I made another TikTok video on this as far as to understand what the true meaning of a false dilemma, or what a true dilemma is, versus the false dilemma fallacy. So yes, so it is about the end game. That's not to saying that everything leading up to that doesn't matter, but it is about, when we have this conversation, especially as Christians, about, okay, we've lived this life, we've done everything, we've done some good things, we've done some bad things, there's repercussions for everything, then what? And so what's the impact? And that's kind of the question that the caller is getting at. But we'll go ahead and continue the video.
Life is its own reward. The fact that let me finish, or I will hang up on your ass.
No.
Let me finish, or I will hang up on your ass. Understood?
What was that?
Let me finish.
He said he's going to hang up on you if you don't let him finish.
Do you understand?
Okay. Yes.
Life is its own reward. The fact that it ends doesn't mean it was worthless. The fact that eventually my truck sitting out in my driveway will rot away in some truck graveyard and then eventually become nothing doesn't mean that it doesn't have value now. And the truth about its value now is about how effective it is at what it's doing right now. The fact that I'm going to poop out the sandwich I ate doesn't mean the sandwich was of no value. The fact that I'm eventually going to have to eat again tomorrow doesn't mean the meals that I had today were of no value. It is a cheat to say, well, in the end, nothing's going to matter, which means it doesn't matter now. That is simply not true.
So again, and what I think that the caller is actually trying to ask is, like, what, especially when it comes to atheism, especially the fact that they kind of proselytize their beliefs. So how in Christianity and maybe some other religions, like, but especially Christianity, how we are going out and we're preaching to the world because it matters. It matters whether you're going to be with God in the end, or whether you're going to be without God, which is hell. With God is heaven, without God is hell. And so that matters to us because we don't want people to go to hell. We want everyone to receive the free gift that has already been offered, and all they need to do is accept it, which is Jesus Christ living the perfect life that we cannot live or ever live up to for us in our place, and that gratitude and gratefulness of understanding what our sins are, accepting that, and accepting God's love for us through the sacrifice of his son Jesus. And so that's why we go out and that's why we preach, because we think that is the truth and that it matters what you do or don't believe. But as far as with atheism, it's like, two people could theoretically act the same way. They could have, treat others with kindness, make sure they always open the door for other people. They're always giving, willing, and with their money. Like, you don't have to be Christian in order to do that. However, Christians are kind because God is kind to us. Someone else who may not believe in the Christian belief might just be kind because they think it's a good thing to do, and they just think that they're good on their own. And so they might completely reject God, reject his existence, reject any evidence that exists for God's existence. And then in the end, it's like, why does the false belief in Christianity, according to the atheistic perspective, what is the impact if nothing's going to happen at the end? So why would you go out and try to, alter beliefs if in the end the impact is the same? There's no purpose. And then it's something where the truth matters at all stages. So it's like the truth either matters or it doesn't matter at all. Either there is an impact or there's no impact at all. Like, it's an all or nothing with the truth, because there is only one truth. There's only one objective reality, and that's the reality that we're all living in. And you can't say that it's your truth versus their truth. This is my truth, or whatever, how we always say in this modern day and age. But it's more so the fact that there is one truth and there can only be one, or else it's not truth, and the truth is irrelevant to begin with. So again, kind of taking that concept and making sure you draw it out to its logical and valid conclusion. So continuing.
By the way, theists, Christians, are the ones who think this life doesn't matter. This life is like dirty rags. This is the place where you wipe your feet before you go on to the real life. So it is the atheist model. This is the one and only life that we know is going to matter. And the fact that it ends adds to its value. It doesn't diminish from it. Now,
so that is just absolutely and completely false. Obviously, the Christian life is that all life matters. And the Christian perspective that it matters from the inception, at conception, and all the way through after our physical flesh dies to this world. That is the Christian perspective, that life matters at all points. And so we're not saying that life on this earth doesn't matter. We're saying that it matters here and continuing to everything afterwards. And so that is just, I don't want to mischaracterize him for mischaracterizing the caller, but it just seems a little bit dishonest for him to kind of phrase or rephrase that question in such a way, as well as to state the beliefs of someone else that he clearly doesn't understand. But our whole shtick as Christians, that life matters, and it's going to continue to matter even after we finished with this world. And the Bible doesn't the Bible doesn't say that this life doesn't matter at all, but he does say that what's in heaven, what's awaiting for us with God, who is the author of good. If you like truly understand that, you'll understand Christianity. So God, who is the author of good, and being with him and being with everything that is good, which is God, that is something to be desired, because this life is pain, this life is suffering. And that's not to say that you should end it or you should give up or that it doesn't matter, but that's to say that it matters even more that you live the life that you should want to live here. And there's plenty of Bible verses out here, I think especially John, book of John, book of Revelations, that really speaks to the importance of the life that we live here, as well as the reward and the promise of heaven that awaits us. So, and that is what the faith is that there is that reward and that promise. Just as much faith that he has that there's going to be nothing when he dies. But continuing.
You can continue.
Yeah, well, that's my question. Why? I understand, and that's not my view that this life doesn't matter. This actually, that's not all Christian stance. That this
that's what the Bible says.
I agree.
Paul, if I may ask you a question.
But
if you were, let's put this in the real world scenario. If you were accused of a crime that you didn't commit, and there was no evidence, or there was evidence to be gathered, would you not want the truth to matter?
And so to her analogy, and she kind of rephrased everything that I was saying earlier, but that true belief is important because a false belief also has an impact. So it's important that, and this is kind of really our understanding of justice as well. Like that's kind of the whole basis of the justice system, because someone has been accused of something or has done something, and if it's true, there should be a deserving punishment or a deserving action to either prevent that behavior or make them learn from their lessons or something along those lines. But it's the fact that we need to make sure that everything is in accordance with reality, and that if it's not in accordance with reality, that there are negative impacts of that case. And so yes, so we understand, like he's not arguing that the truth doesn't matter, because we understand that it does. But again, coming from our Christian perspective, our reasoning is certainly different than it would be from the atheist perspective, which is what he's trying to have them rationalize all the way to its logical conclusion, which is in the end, what's the impact? So I believe I'm going like if his whole worldview is correct and nothing does happen when we die, what's the impact of my false belief? Because I can still live a good life, or what might seem as a good life to the atheist, but there's no onward impact. So continuing.
In that circumstance.
Yeah.
You would want the truth to matter. So you wouldn't want it to just be this arbitrary thing where, your innocence or guilt could be decided, especially if you were wrongfully accused. You would want that truth to matter.
Yeah, I would. But I'm saying this from a theistic world perspective.
No, sir.
I'm asking from an atheist.
No.
Sir.
Nope.
You're seeing it from a human perspective. You give a shit about your life, so do we. That's why the truth matters, period. This is a pointless question, and we don't need to continue on it. And that
that to me, that's right. And that is what can be infuriating about such a lazy way of thinking, because when you try to apply that to so many real world issues, which have affected so many people, this is what gets under our skin. When you try to propose blanketed stuff like that.
Yep. It is also disgusting to me personally.
Yes, absolutely.
That everybody should care about the truth. And the people who are least likely to care about the truth are the ones that call in and ask a question like that, was why should the truth matter to an atheist? Because it's all we've got. We don't have a fiction that can override the truth and make us feel comfortable.
So before I address those kind of last statements that he made, so pretty much why he's saying the truth matters because it matters, but that doesn't really explain why the truth matters according to the atheistic perspective, which again is not answering the question. Like we all understand that the truth matters, but why the truth matters has to be answered, and he's not answering it because he's having a circular argument, if that makes any sense. So the truth matters because it matters doesn't really answer why it matters. It's just saying that it is, which again is what the Christian perspective is, because we believe that Jesus Christ is truth, God's word is truth. And God just is. He is the great I am. He is eternal. He has no start. He has no end. Great Alpha and Omega. Like, it just gives me chills. But we understand because God's word is truth and the truth just is, and that is God. But outside of that perspective, it's like, how do you formulate, how do you reason and rationalize why the truth matters besides just saying that it matters because it matters? And again, God is not fictional. Don't be blasphemous. Don't be blasphemous to my homie G upstairs. I hope that wasn't blasphemous either. Besides the point. I think I say besides the point a lot of my videos. We'll get over that. But yeah, so continuing.
We have to deal with reality on reality's terms. We don't get to have some imaginary friend that we can pretend is going to, got our back. We have to make real friends that actually have our back. That's the truth of reality. And what you're not recognizing is that your shitty religion, your immoral religion, your irrational religion, the only reason you're a part of it is because it is providing you a network of like-minded friends to do that heavy lifting for you.
Pause. I know the video is almost over. The video is almost over, but like I have to address it because like honestly, if you were to flip the script, because everyone's belief system is like belief, meaning what you accept as true, is not everyone's belief is true. There's a difference. But everyone's belief has a belief system. Everyone has a religion, and you can say that they're doing the exact same thing with atheism as far as with their irrationalists, very much emotions based. And they're not attacking the situation logically. Almost done.
So join in and participate and stop making the rest of us do all the fucking work.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the end of the video. But yeah, so again, the whole thing with this video is that they never actually answered the question as far as why truth matters, besides saying that truth matters because it matters, and that's the end of the story. And when the caller wanted them to take it to its logical conclusion, which is in the end, when it matters and when it has an impact, they just kind of, again, threw that argument away, got really offensive or defensive of the caller, and really just failed to answer the question. So that's just kind of, again, my thoughts, and that's typically tends to be the Christian perspective of the truth and why it matters. And I mean, atheists still can't really answer this question, and I would challenge anyone in the comments to kind of give their better explanation in opposition to what I've said and what I've stated. So those are just my thoughts on that question. But hey, I'm just an amateur. What do I know? Thanks for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video.